But I'll just go ahead and say it again. I honestly just have a comfort zone for ecchi as a genre. Like, if you ask me what is my comfort zone of literally any parts of anime, it will always, probably at least at this current moment in time of myself, will be ecchi. Mainly because it, one, gives you something that is just absolute trashy for most people, where I can just sit here and just enjoy for what it is. Then at the very same time, it's also not necessarily scared to do what it wants to do, and it also can produce and just show out with the most craziest of concepts for literally no dang reason, and it's an enjoyable experience. Like, and I said this before, but ecchi, for the most part, is doing stuff that not a lot of other genres of anime has been doing, especially in terms of like what can be testing the limits of what can be shown in an anime and what can't be done, right? What actually is possible and what isn't possible. And every single time I look at any part of anime, it's usually ecchi that's doing something of the sort that's like it, right? As soon as a ecchi show comes out, I'm more interested in that than anything else, due to the fact that it could produce something a bit more wilder than you usually would get in a regular show, right? Like shonen and a lot of these other stuff can't really compare to what ecchi can do because of the wilding factor of what it is. And I personally also enjoy the fact that a lot of people are turned off by the concept of just adult content and sexualization that is used within that genre, because it also leaves room for stories to not necessarily be impeded or interrupted by the weird ass people that is just the normies of the anime space, right? It's just a fun time to just sit here and watch what can be produced without any sort of like weird ass people coming in and trying to ruin it, outside your occasional, Twitter people that just want to basically hate on everything, because of course they do. They got nothing else going on for them. There was like an announcement, I want to say like a few hours ago, that there was a show, I forgot the name, I think it started with like an N. I think it was called Nukitashi or something like that. And that's a whole ecchi show that's supposed to be coming out literally on the 18th of next month. And just looking at the preview of it, yeah, it looks a bit wild. It looks a bit crazy. And because I didn't really know what it's about, I decided just to read one chapter of the manga ahead of time. And yeah, it's pretty dang wild. Not gonna sit here and lie. It's like the best way to explain it without going into too much of a spoiler territory. It's like if you've seen the show Shimoneta, it's like the opposite of what the plot is of that, right? It's basically like, yeah, instead of this whole world being regulated by people that can't necessarily let anything sexual happen, it's like, what if you just let that regulation go bye-bye and it's only maintained by a few people while everybody else is basically clapping cheeks, and that's just how life is. It's the literal law there, right? And that's just how it is. Which, fantastic, just straight clapping everywhere. You would think, how in the hell is this not a actual Gentai? Which I am also very much questioning the same logic. How the hell is this not a Gentai? I don't necessarily know, but it's gonna be a pretty good looking time. I just hope they have an uncensored version, because I saw no absolute uncensoredness within the manga. But in the end, we could be surprised. We could be surprised and see something a bit more crazier, which I would imagine they would do. Hell, Gushing Over Magical Girls didn't necessarily have anything uncensored in the manga, but they showed it in the anime, so let's just hope we get the same type of treatment. That whole story, at least where of how that manga has played out in, what the anime is potentially gonna do, that right there solidifies why I like it so dang much. Again, there is just story concepts and plots and things and sort of like that may be, again, trashy for most people, but it just does stuff that no other genre can do, right? And if it does do it, it's always going to be, some type of infighting with what the show wants to actually be and how it displays itself, and then other people has to come in and weigh their opinions of certain things, and it's just not necessarily something I'm too caring for when it comes down to majority of the anime, right? That's out there, kind of predicting where it's supposed to go and all that sort of stuff, taking it extra seriously in weird ass ways. And Ecchi just doesn't do that. Now, granted, would I like to see, more shows kind of have a consistent plot and sometimes just go out their way to do what they need to do and do it effectively? Sure, right? Because like I said before, something like Machina-san, as great as it is that the love robot here has like such good absolute peak of Buva of the robots, at the end of the day, the show's kind of shit. I hate to say it, but it is kind of shit. Like, don't get me wrong, Machina-san is fine as hell. The damn lolly that tried to take Machina's body and whatever, she looked good too. But at the very same time, it's not the peakest of thing, right? Especially with the main character literally acting like a bitch the entire time, which is just like, come on, dude. There is a fine ass robot woman right there. F her. She doesn't know anything about clapping cheeks, all this other science stuff, but you don't know how to stick your dick inside of a hole? Kinda crazy, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. But then you get something peak right with it, Yandere Dark Elf, and that shit, while I haven't still caught up on it, just looking from the scenes of uncensoredness, looks mad good, right? You got a chocolate chick, and you got a whole ass vanilla looking chick. Now, why the hell you telling me you ain't clapping any of these? You got something very messed up in your own brain, sir. You talking about you don't want to clap any of these or anything like that? You're wild, and you ain't saying this ain't hot. The girl with the blonde hair don't got a fat ass, because she absolutely do. You're crazy. But that's kind of, again, the point. That's a show that actually has done it effectively with, their time and what they can show and everything like that. And while it may not be like the most craziest plot on the planet, it still does what it needs to do, and you have an enjoyable time. And again, as I said before, you can show booba in a show, but again, if you don't use your effectiveness of what the anime is and use it in a proper, better way, all you just have is just really just straight up booba. I can look at something like, Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World and call that show perfectly paced and peaked, while at the same time absolutely ragging on something like Behead Neko, which has good booba, but it's super formulaic in what the show actually is, and it's ultimately the reason why I dropped the dang show. I could call something like Peter Grill absolutely funny and, really dang good for what it was, for, the short amount of time it had, but then I might not enjoy something else like, I don't know, like a Sekirei that much. Sekirei is fine, but it's not the cup of tea I'm ultimately looking for, right? And then sometimes ecchi moments in shows can very much enhance an anime, and it's the reason why some shows to me will never be forgotten in the shows I've seen, like in Ediths and Deities. I'm still never going to let this show go. The fact that this show has no season 2 is still baffling to me, and the fact that literally no one has heard or seen of this show back when it was first airing still pisses me off, because it's such a good show. It's doing stuff that really I haven't seen anime do in a good long time, and to keep it very much stacked, someone like Miku getting clapped by Shota dick is still some wild and nonsense I didn't think I'd really ever see in some modern anime, right? That's just how it is. That's just the goal of what she was doing. That's the type of time that she was on. Miku is still peak. She is still primed and ready for all the Shota penis in the world, and it's quite crazy, right? So it's just really dang good. There's just a lot of stuff in ecchi that is just very much a comfortable watch for me, and honestly just the most fun I can have with anime as a whole, if I'm gonna be honest. And do I need to bring up stuff like Inner Future Reviewer, how crazy that junk was back in 2020, how much that show was just honestly all over the dang place, and solidifies itself as, we have smashing sessions here and it's a grand old time, and you know what, that's the whole point of the dang show, just rating different monster girls to see who's the best one in the bed sheets, and it somehow was peak as hell. Still to this day, needed a season 2, should have had a season 2. The fact that it got screwed over in the dubbing side of things is effing shitty, and it sucks, but that's just how peak that show was. That's how powerful that show was honestly being, and it's still one of the shows that is talked about to this damn day. Even stuff like, Redo a Healer, as much as I may not care for it, I will not necessarily sit here and deny at least the first scene with, Flare getting absolutely her cheeks ran. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. Yeah, that was a pretty good time too, I suppose. Crazy work, but it was a good time too. I'm still pissed off at that Blade scene. I'm never letting that go. Blade should have got way more rougher treatment than what she gotten, but they just didn't show that much, and it pissed me off to no end. So that's just how that is on that sort of front. And sometimes that's what you get. You sometimes get hits and misses, and sometimes those shows have hits in it, and sometimes those shows have misses within those shows. And it's just bland. Honestly, and this might be very crazy to say, and you could quote this in the future if I'm going to be honest, but even the most complex heavy plot anime cannot compare to a booba drop. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Literally, you can have the most intricate, weaving, plot having, heavy ass having stories for a show to exist. If you're gonna be honest, you can have the most heaviest plot of a show to absolutely exist, question life and morality and all that sort of stuff, and I promise you, for me personally, it's not gonna hit heavier than I see some tits dropping out of some chick's shirt. It hits way hard on that level for me, just because, damn, philosophy over tits, right? Is that the route I want to go? Not really. So I decided to go into the opposite route. And the thing is, it's not saying that, shows like that ain't important, or, it's not necessarily necessary to have. But at the very same time, out of entertainment value and, what I would like to see, I would rather see some booba dropping more than something that is very much a slow burn of a show. And that's just another thing too to add to it, is that just because it's an ecchi show does not necessarily mean it can't be deep, or it can't do things that is out there and very much still in the level of what regular shows kind of can do, because you still have that. It's just an etchier element to it, right? The reason why I like something like a Harem Labyrinth of Another World so dang much is because it makes you care about the world that you're in. Yes, booba is there, but it's paced so well to the point it's like, man, I can't stop watching this for me, and literally I want to see what happens next. Where's the next part of the story? And it made me yearn for like a season 2, even though I know we're never gonna get it. It made me want a season 2 just because of how perfectly paced it was, how good it honestly looked as well. But at the very same time, that's just the realm of ecchi that you can have it in. You could still tell a regular story, but you could just add booba in there, and I promise you, it's not really, at least for me, taking too much away from the story. Now obviously you have to have, a balancing act out of, how much tits do you want on screen and how much people should care for plot. Obviously you need to have that mix, but at the very same time, if you pull it off right, and if you pull it off good, chances are people are still going to remember your show. And especially if you're unapologetic with it and not necessarily giving a damn, you'll have more people to remember you than not necessarily going in that direction or trying to hesitate on it a little bit. And you gotta know that balance when it comes down to it. But yeah, to kind of wrap all this stuff up, ecchi anime for me is like consistently the stuff I try to go find and watch the most. I might not watch every single piece of ecchi, I might not watch every single piece of it, because there is some shows that I just don't care for, like My Dress Up Darling. Don't really care for that personally. And then there's like other shows that might do it just as bad, and it's not necessarily that good of a show overall, like Ecchi. I see booba there, it looks fine, but the plot of the show, at least the first season, that shit was ass. I'm not gonna sit here and cap. It's a bit ass. I'll say it again. It just was. I watched it to binge watch it. It was not the greatest thing on the planet, right? And I'm not saying every show needs to also have like straight up uncensored content. You can have a show that just teases that hard as hell, and I promise you, it can still be a good and enjoyable watch if you know how you do it, and if it's a good cast of characters and everything looks great and fine and all that sort of stuff, just depending on how you go about it. But yeah, really, ecchi again is one of those only genres in anime that really sits here and one, can be comfortable for me to watch, and then two, is the only genre I've seen that really sits here and challenges the medium, what can and cannot be done. Where you get something like Solo Leveling, and even the damn director said that Japanese people kind of find it mid as hell, which is a bit crazy to say, especially as someone that worked on the show. But it just goes to show you, even with these high ass in budget shows with a lot of this action and stuff, at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna end up being good, despite it being popular in the West and whatever. At the end of the day, it could be something very different that takes the top spot. And for me personally, if you got some tits in it, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to care about it way more than any other show or any other story that's basically out there. At least for me, right? So that's really, I guess, what I wanted to say for this one. If any type of ecchi anime has hit you in a different way or makes you kind of feel, nice to watch, you think it's a good watch, let me know in the comments below. Also, for funsies, just gonna say this for funsies, if you remember any booba drop in any show or any good ecchi moment in any show, that was just the peakest thing that you ever seen, let me know in the comments what anime it was, what character was involved, what was happening in the scene. Let me know, because I'm absolutely curious to see if there's anything I missed. Most likely I have, but show me what I've missed, because there is a lot of anime that's out there, a lot of crazy stuff that's out there that honestly is really dang good, that a lot of people may have seen and may have not seen, and there's still a lot that I haven't seen, right? You never really know what's exactly out there. It's just like Howl's kind of freaking out over Innocent Front, or Front Innocent, whatever that Gentai was, with the amazing looking animation quality to it that would just peak all around. Like, something like that was hidden from me for years, and I didn't know about it until literally like last year. So if you got something out there that maybe I've never really seen or never really heard of, let me know, because there's a lot of good content that's out there that needs to be seen by my own two eyes. So let me know. But anyway, that's again all I really want to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also follow my socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's me, Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.